of attack speed or whatever. Tristana, Jinx, Caitlyn. I'm not saying all of these are good right now, by the way, but this is just what I'm saying. So then
in terms of playstyle.
Yeah, in terms of playstyle, Tristana, Jinx, Caitlyn, good range, hard to lock down. Except for Jinx, potentially. But she obviously has that cell speed, attack speed, steroid, and she's got AoE splash damage, makes her very, very good in late game scenarios. And then you've got varying tiers below. I won't go into it too much. But that's like my elements of hyper carries. When I talk about true hyper carry, I'm talking about Kog'Maw and Vayne specifically, just because of their potential to do well against essentially any target, regardless of health pool, regardless of, even in Vayne's case, sometimes resistances because of her true damage. And that's when you get to your true late game status. And then you've got hyper carries that are just good because of their range, their attack speed, steroids, or whatever else they have to offer with those other ones that I talked about. And then you have a varying other lot who are hyper carries in their own right, like Ezreal. If you get like hyper late game, Ezreal can be a hyper carry just if you're landing multiple skill shots. Yeah. Good. I'm gonna stop on that little tirade because it has absolutely nothing to do with the game. But I did manage to waste 2 minutes of champ select.
A bit of a tangent, but yeah, it's certainly some good points there. But I mean, let's talk about these two compositions. What do you think the kind of goals for these two teams are going to be?
I'm going to clip that for my highlight reel. It's a bit of a tangent, but certainly some good points there. Looks away from the camera.
So what do you think of these two compositions that have been drafted then? What are going to be the win conditions for these two teams?
So, win conditions for these two teams. I think you're going to have to at least have Shen able to clear waves in the top lane. He's probably not going to split push very well against Gnar, but you've got to play that to your advantage. Gnar's probably going to want to split push. My only issue with the GLB roster is if they get into a full-on 5v5 team fight, they're actually, I think, in a worse team fight composition than you have against what TCA are offering. I mean, TCA have got a massive wombo combo, they've got a good knock-up, they've got huge single target damage as well. So when you get towards a later game scenario, I think this is going to be more about protect Tristana and less about trying to fight 5v5. So peel for Tristana, which you can do very well with Shen, Karma, and Trundle. Allow Tristana to be that carry for yourself, because realistically, actually there aren't many champions on TCA's side that can jump onto Tristana and delete her instantaneously. You know, Syndra's going to have to get close to make that happen. Braum's going to have to get close to get any stuns on. And as long as people are body blocking Jhin, I think Tristana remains fairly safe. So you've not got anything like a Yasuo there or a Zed, if God forbid we don't really see him much anymore. But you haven't got that true assassin there. So I think this is going to become more about, let's get Tristana to late game. And then you've also got the respect that turrets are a big win condition here for GLB. If they can rotate consistently, then if they can rotate consistently and take turrets, they've got their better turret-taking team, in my opinion. So sieging turrets, taking turrets quickly, snowballing the gold, or if that fails, you're protecting Tristana.
Absolutely, and I think protect the Tristana, that was a composition we saw for a fair while, a few months back as well. So we'll see what they do opt to go for here in this game. Certainly going to be an interesting one, and definitely one that GLB, they've really got to take this one, not just in terms of moving on in the tournament, but also in terms of like holding on to their pride, right? They already lost to TCA in this tournament, and this is their opportunity to get back into things.
Absolutely. If they win this, it's massive for them. They get to go to the live finals at MCM Comic-Con. They get to fight with some of the best in the UK. And honestly, it's a huge boost for their roster and also for the organization too, because everyone is realistically expecting TCA to win this just because of how last time went. But like you said, one game was missed for GLB. So we'll see how this progresses.
Yeah.
I think also looking at GLB's comp, they've got really good siege, right? But they've also got good disengage. So take lots of turrets with Tristana, try and snowball that gold, get good rotations, put pressure bot lane to allow them to take their turret quickly. And then actually you might be able to snowball this before you get to a point where the team fight even starts to matter. Get locked into a full 5v5, I think they lose. Get forced into a split push with Shen having to continuously do something against Gnar, I think they lose. So they've got some specific win conditions, but as do TCA.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll see if they can meet those win conditions here and see if they can find their way to Comic-Con. And I mean, speaking of that, speaking of the finals, like TCA, this is their opportunity to actually make a name for themselves here, because they've been in the UK scene for a fair while now. Oh, Plex actually putting down some serious pressure. He's going to unfortunately miss his target there, though. Crocs are more than happy to trade that back, despite being level 1. So fantastic stuff from him on the Syndra. But as I was saying, TCA, they've been in the UK scene for a while now, but they've never really had any stellar results, right? They've always been kind of middle of the table team, but like starting to get closer and closer to the top of the table. this is their opportunity to actually get a top-of-the-table finish for a season.
I think you're completely right, Munchables, because if I'm completely honest, I feel like TCA as an organisation have always been in the shadow of those bigger organisations back in the day, FM and Infused, then it followed by Manolite and
Exertus as well, yeah.
You know, all these other rosters just seem to be coming on at the right time with the rosters that used to beat TCA out, but now TCA have a real chance to practice hard and have a real impact in the UK scene, which I think is what they're looking for. I believe they came second at Insomnia, though, so they did okay at the previous Insomnia. I can't remember, I think actually it was the M&M roster that won Insomnia. I can't quite...
Yeah, I think you're correct there. I think that was the final. So, yeah, so already putting some good results on the board, but Last Remedy weren't there. So they do have a challenge still, especially when we start to get to Comic-Con. Obviously, Last Remedy have already qualified for Comic-Con, and this is going to be deciding our second team to go there. But if I'm correct, the way the bracket will work is that neither of these teams, whoever wins, they won't face Last Remedy in the semi-final. They'll face whoever's the first seed from the other bracket. So,
which is most people are expecting to be M&M, and then that's a really interesting question that raises in itself, Munchables, that may not
do
be
we
done.
get the TCA M&M rematch?
Yes, but also who is better out of Last Remedy? And
here we go. We've got Plex actually on the cleanse.
That's a good cleanse.
That was instant, and here comes Zanny as well. Going to be able to find one for himself. Croxon goes down. Jet getting chunked on out, but the spear falls wide. I've got to say, some beautiful stuff coming out from GLB in that little fight.
That cleanse from Plex was instantaneous.
Yeah.
But also the fact that Zanny thread the needle with that Nidalee spear, that was incredible from him. Just literally thread it through to pick off Croxon. You've got to realise at that point as Croxon, there's probably no point burning your flash, because all it's going to take is a singular takedown from Nidalee. I guess he was hoping that Nidalee potentially lost her own flash somewhere previously.
Yep, absolutely. Unfortunately, we do have a pause coming out in this game, so got some divine intervention holding this one up at the moment.
Absolutely.
So, fingers crossed, everything will be in order shortly, and we'll actually be able to get this rocking and rolling for you guys, so we can see what the result of this first map is. And fingers crossed as well that this is just kind of a temporary hiccup, and then all of the players will be fine to continue with this series. But so far, GLB getting off to a decent start. They've managed to rank themselves just under a 1,000 gold lead already.
That's pretty good, if I'm completely honest, Munchables.
In 4 minutes, yeah.
That's pretty good. A lot of it will do from that first blood gold as well. And interestingly enough, somehow Shikari is ahead of Yopper in terms of CS. Despite the fact Yopper pushed him directly to tower, he still had about a wave and a half to deal with under tower, and has come out ahead of CS over Yopper. Now, this is what you expect as a Shen, especially versus someone who will push waves quite quickly like a Gnar. You're expecting to get pushed under turret, but to come ahead out, come out ahead on CS is pretty incredible. I think that's a failure almost on Yopper's part. He really wants to be putting as much pressure onto Shen as possible, so that Shen can't function under tower as quickly as possible.
Well, I mean, you can't allow Shen to keep up with you.
Exactly.
That's the thing. Shen is one of those champions that, if he can get the items, can be incredibly effective, and often ends up starved and still used regardless. So that kind of says a lot. Yopper actually going to take a bit of damage from Shikari here. And
Shikari's using that basic attack block really well, Munchables. Every time there's a third attack proc trying to be stacked up on Shikari, or the fact he's going to receive early pressure from basic attacks, he's going to be starting to use that.
He might have to use it pretty well in this situation, because Jet has entered the lane. The cocoon will land. Yopper's going to jump right on in. Wallop not going to be available though, and Jet actually flashes forward. Oh, we're going to see flashbacks of a previous game. Jet just about repels out. That could have been disastrous, but they do get away with it. They
do indeed, and they don't actually have to burn Yopper's flash to secure the kill either, which was probably the main thing for me there. Shen burning his. Now Yopper can look to push that wave in, or try and freeze it, one of the two. He actually looks like he's going to allow it to push back to him, which is going to try and deny Shen as much as possible, but Shen will teleport back instantaneously, so this is going to be pretty good for Shikari. He should be able to push the wave quite quickly.
Good effort on the Shadow Dash there, nearly punishing Yopper for trying to back so far up in the lane, but in the end both teleports going to be burnt now, so it's just Yopper with an advantage in this lane. That flash going to be a huge deal, and he should be able to start to rack up a bit of a CS lead over the next couple of minutes as well.
Oh, he's gone for Phage first, so he's going to be starting to just accelerate his movement speed, really look to put pressure onto Shikari. Shikari's now going to back off pretty far, just get some wards down. I think actually at this moment Yopper is freezing the top lane, so I just want to have a quick look at that in a minute. Yeah, he's trying to freeze as best he can. I'm not sure that will result in a full freeze, but just doing his best to deny Shikari as much as possible.
Well, it's currently pushing away from him right now, so it might actually be Shikari that ends up with a freeze going at this rate. But let's take a look elsewhere on the map as well. Over towards the mid lane, I can see Krogson has started to build up a little bit of a CS lead. I like how proactive Jet is being, by the way, as well. Like, every time we swap to a different lane with the camera, it feels like Jet's already there. Raisins, though, is in a bit of trouble right now. Plex actually gets the bind, but nice flash from Raisins, as well as his stand behind me is going to pull him to safety. So does get away with that one, but another flash burn.
Yeah, and actually, they haven't resulted in much pressure going down onto Jhin either, because that roam was timed nicely from Raisins as both Tristana and Dandy head back to base. But they are going to potentially give up a free Infernal Drake here. And I'm not sure anyone realizes Jet's on the wrong side of the map. This should be an easy Infernal right now for GLB.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they realized, because there was that ward in the river that they walked past and then never turned up in bot lane. They were like, wait a second, we've just lost Infernal Drake. This is bad news, guys. But to be honest as well, probably the worst Drake to be losing at this early stage in the game. That is terrible news to lose an Infernal Drake.
I completely agree with you, but I actually think maybe the worst Drake for them would have been the Mountain Drake. I think Mountain Drake could have been even more devastating, because I think a lot of the win conditions for the GLB roster, it really sits heavily on taking structures as quickly as possible with Tristana, and that will actually severely impact their ability to defend those structures if Mountain Drake had gone down early on. However, Infernal Drake, no one wants to lose. No one wants to lose Infernal Drake at this point in the game anyway. So, in fact, to be honest, I actually don't think, apart from Cloud Drake, which sucks a little bit, there aren't many Drakes you'd want to lose early on right now, because Ocean Drake is even still very good for laning phase as well.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. In a lot of cases, Drakes are kind of ignored in many games, but I think we are starting to see them be a little bit more prioritized, especially after there was a couple of changes coming through. Suddenly, the Drakes seem a little bit more effective, and especially when you're heading towards these longer game times, getting the Drake early, while it doesn't get you a huge advantage in that early game, so long as you're not losing much, that can pay dividends later on in the game.
Infernal's the biggest one for that. You know, that will scale up with you as the game progresses. Mountain Drake probably has a bit more of an immediate impact here for GLB, but they are not going to say no to a free Infernal. I mean, especially when you're really relying, if you go to the late game, on a singular target's carry potential. Boosting that target's carry potential is only going to be a good thing. But look at Zanny going heavy on the counter jungling right here. He is farming up a Storm right now, starting to stretch that small CS advantage into a larger one. And he's going to be doing so with a red buff steal here.
He's basically doing his best impression of Max Law last season, who was just permanently on Nidalee, permanently counter-jungling, making sure to be punishing his opponents. I think it was Impaler as well, wasn't it, that was on that squad that was doing it for most of the season.
Here comes a gank.
Followed it in, but here we go. Raisins, unfortunately, shielding kind of in the wrong direction there, and will get shut down for it. Deadly gets exhausted as well, but the ultimate actually lands onto the minions. Plex, though, has arrived on the scene, and will be able to shut them down. Zanny gets healed with the summoner and with his own heal as well. Will be able to survive, and it's another 2 kills for GLB. It's going to be a bottom lane tower for GLB, the first blood tower gold as well.
First brick going down here to GLB. But this is exactly what I think, you know, I remember at the start of the game, this is I think what they said they needed to do. That came out in an incredible slurry of words. At the start of the game, this is what they said that they needed to do. That, you know, you're taking early pressure on that bot lane turret to allow Tristana to roam, and then your win condition starts to rotate up as we are going to take turrets and structures very quickly. And getting that early first turret in the bot lane is super important, because it frees up Tristana's ability now to roam to that mid lane, put pressure on Syndra, who honestly, wave clear is good, but not absolutely fantastic, not up there with the likes of Victor. It takes you a few seconds to clear a wave, and with Tristana, we all know that a few seconds could spell devastation. Looks like TCA are going to respond, though.
Yeah, absolutely. They're looking for a tower up in this top lane. And one thing I think we've got to mention as well is, while all of this has been going on, we've had a fair bit of roaming, and up in the top lane, Yopper has started to build a titanic CS lead of over 20 CS right now, and a similar situation happening in the mid lane for Krogson.
Yeah, and I think this is something we expected once the phase had been completed for Yopper. Just, you know, you're going to have that potential to chase Shen down. You have the extra movement speed on the basic attacks. It's just something that, as a Gnar, you fully expect to happen versus Shen. Yeah. Shen cannot clear waves against you very easily. Shen also will struggle at you in the 1v1 because of that range difference. Looks like they're going to go for a blue buff steal here, but Jet has spied this one out.
Yeah, he certainly has, and will be able to protect that blue buff. So I think he's going to be very happy about that turn of events, because You know, we've already seen Zanny stealing buffs away, stealing camps away from Jet, so at this stage he's just looking to take whatever control of his jungle he can find, because I've got to say, GLB so far have been doing a fantastic job of controlling this map. They have managed to net themselves almost a 2,000 gold lead. And it looks like they might be looking to push into this top lane tower soon as well. Jet looking for a fight onto Zanny though. We'll be able to chase him on out of the jungle.
I think they're waiting around this top lane because it looks like there's been a massive rotation here.
Here we go. It's going to be Shikari coming on in. Dandy's tanking the tower, though, and has to flash away. The Subjugate is going to be enough to weaken that Syndra, though. Zanny, fully punished.
Nice shutdown.
Is traded 1-for-1 in the end, and that is going to mean GLB have to back away. They cannot go for any more there. The damage coming out from Plex already, though, with that Mantra just does so much.
Yeah, he's really starting to hurt. Doesn't look like he's building towards that Athene's Unholy Grail build here, Munchables. This is what we were expecting. Athene's on Karma just makes your ability to be a bit more useful in teamfight situations, especially with your ability to AoE heal with your shield. Pretty fantastic. So I was fully expecting this build path coming out. The good thing about that rotation from GLB, though, means it kind of threw the plans of TCA into the bin. I think TCA were expecting Gnar to split push in the bot lane. They were hoping to clear waves against Tristana with the Syndra in the top lane, and then they were expecting both Jhin and Braum to push up heavily into this mid lane, which will be a key turret for them because it will allow them to move into both the blue and the red side jungle, and that will help them make picks, which is what their team composition is pretty good at doing as well. But obviously that hasn't happened for them. It was good pressure by GLB, and actually they're going to get a lot of free pressure onto this top lane turret now. So here comes the rotations from the Tristana.
Yeah. They are going to be able to head up and clear away those waves, though. Croxon arriving on the scene. But one thing we didn't mention as well about that recent top lane dive is Croxon used both his Ghost and his Flash there. So this could be a fantastic opportunity for GLB to follow up on those lack of summoner spells. That could be their opportunity to really punish that Syndra. And so far, Croxon 0-2-0 on that Syndra. That's not a scoreline that we're used to seeing from this player. He's usually absolutely dominant during the lane phase. Oh, here we go, though. Zanny heading up towards this top lane. He's gone a little bit too deep, though, on his own here. Taking a lot of damage basically for free there, which is a similar situation to what we saw in the last version of this dive. But they're going for a Shadow Dash. Gets completely blocked by Raisins. Fantastic ultimate coming out from him. They're looking to try and contest. They're still looking to protect this tower. They're not going to be able to, though. That goes down in the end. Zanny grabbing the credit for that one. It will get traded, though, as in the bottom lane. There's a couple of players pushing up as much as they can, but that tower is going to get traded in the end.
A good rotation for GLB were to go straight to mid lane right now because Deadly's almost forced out and Karma has got a lot of pressure here, and it looks exactly what GLB are doing. I've got to say I like TCA's ability to keep up with structures against GLB, given that GLB's composition is very good at taking them. But right now, this is a lot of pressure to handle, and the good rotations coming out from GLB means it might be difficult for TCA to now catch up. They may have to go for that full-on team fight that we were expecting them to try and execute at some point.
And look at this, so little wave clear available in this mid lane right now. They have to just purely body block so that nobody can actually hit onto the towers, but I don't know how long this will actually last. Shikari does have his ultimate available again. That Stand United will come into play should they need it. Deadly has arrived once more as well as Croxon, so the wave clear is here for TCA once again.
Yeah, but I mean, Syndra's wave clear just isn't that good compared to a lot of others. You know, she's such a risky wave clear to go for. Oh,
Plex
Dandy
was in trouble there, but in fact, he just goes forward. He's got that Stand United into play, and that's going to be a kill onto Croxon. In comes Yoppa, though, locks up the Tristana, who will leap to safety. Whoa! Gets taken out by a dancing grenade, and now Shikari's on the front line. He's going to get stunned and should be taken out as well. Yoppa grabs the kill credit, and that is how you get a flank on Gnar, ladies and gentlemen. Nocturnal Plex is going to get locked up. One more shot will finish it off, and there's a double kill coming through for Yoppa. 4 kills for TCA in trade for just 1.
Oh, Yoppa single-handedly putting TCA's team fight on his back. I think the biggest point there was the beautiful basically coordination between the CC landing onto Tristana, and somehow that dancing grenade found its target right at the end.
I think it must have started bouncing before she jumped or something.
I was expecting Jet to have to go into Repel to finish the Tristana off, because had Tristana not died there, that could have been a completely different team fight. But oh my word, Yoppa just doing what I thought would be better for TCA, going for a full 5v5, making big use of those Gnar ultimates. And they managed to stop the GLB siege directly in its tracks and pick up the mid lane turret as well. However, again, some unfortunate back timings might result in another Drake going in favor of GLB.
It certainly will. Raisin's going to look for the steal. Actually nearly got it as well. The spike was missed there by Zani, but it is going to be the Tristana grabbing the kill credit in the end. And now GLB group up in this mid lane once more. Not much HP on that tower, so they should be able to finish this one off here. Raisins, if he sticks around to try and protect that, I think he would just go down with it, and there it is in the end. So GLB managing to even up those numbers once again, but their gold lead has completely gone now.
Absolutely, and now TCA is starting to execute a bit more of a coordinated game plan here. Pressure the side lanes, force some of the wave clear to go into those side lanes, and especially some of the people that are key to a good siege. Plex and Lemonite are needed to make a good siege happen here for GLB, so if you force them into the side lanes and keep Nara in a side lane, Shen will not split push very well against Yopper, who is 2 levels down. What the moly?
Yeah,
okay, wow.
Roxon just decided that he wants to win the game now. Just walks underneath the tower, gets an easy kill onto the Tristana, and now he's getting chased out by Dandy, but I don't think he's really going to be able to keep up. And if he had kept chasing, I think he would have ended up dying for his trouble. There's a Rift Herald as well going the way of TCA, and out of nowhere, TCA just seemed to be in control of this game. It was looking so great for GLB, but they seem to have lost it. Yeah,
that mid lane structure take was a big one for GLB, or TCA rather, but Yopper going in onto Zani here.
Yeah, he's actually going to flash for this one as well. They're looking for the route. Aren't going to be able to find it though. Nice little shadow dash as Yopper jumps on in. Zani is going to survive though, and now Shikari has sacrificed his own life to save his jungler. But I'd say that's worth it because Zani, he was on shutdown gold right there.
Absolutely. Totally worth it, but looks like Krogson's going to go down in the meantime to Plex there. Not sure what much Krogson could have done about that. Actually, Yopper building for the Frozen Mallet as well. So he's gone full split push build in this particular scenario. He's going to be incredibly good against Shen. But with that Black Cleaver does make him have an impact in teamfights too. And if he does join teamfights, his damage output is going to be pretty insane at this point in time too.
And I think that's the key thing, is that he's kind of building for damage purely because look at his score, 5-0-2 right now. He's on so much CS as well compared to his lane opponent. He is over 3,000 gold ahead of his lane opponent right now. A similar lead starting to be built up in... Oh, actually, no, not similar at all. I was going to say in the jungle, but it's only 1,300. Yopper is running away with this game single-handedly, and he's looking to carry. That is safe to say.
Yeah, absolutely. Without Yopper, TCA would be dead in the water right now. There's probably no other way of looking at it. Yopper has been the defining factor in almost all of TCA's engagements. And he's essentially managed to bring them into a small gold lead now, especially with the fact he is 60 CS ahead and also 5-0-2, and they're only now just 400 gold ahead of their opponents. So GLB as a unit have been doing very, very well. It's literally just Yopper right now that is preventing GLB from managing to make their game plan happen. And it's because of Yopper that they've managed to turn around some pretty important sieges in that mid lane and also pick up those kills in the top lane.
I think an important point as well to bring up at this stage is that despite the fact that the early game didn't go so hot for TCA, they've got characters on their lineup like Syndra. Now, we saw Krogson, despite the fact he was previously, what was it, 0-3, I think he was, before he just went and solo killed the Tristana. He's Syndra though, so it doesn't matter necessarily that he fell behind because he's got a needlessly large rod and he's got that Morello's, and he will be able to just one-shot that AD carry for basically the rest of the game unless he starts to build some MR.
Yeah, we're going to see Nocturnal Plex heading towards what I think is going to be a Rabadon's Death Cap. So basically this is the build of I want to do as much shielding as physically possible, as well as much damage as physically possible. That's kind of the way that the Karma utility is going to work in this scenario. This is Yopper now putting on the pressure in this top lane. About to turn to Meganar as well, and I don't know if GLB can react to this, Munchables.
Yeah, he's going to be able to just slam away at that tower. Nice little Shadow Dash comes out. Will mean that he has to tank a few turret shots there. I don't think he really minds all too much, and Jet actually heading over there as well. That is maybe a good signal for GLB to start to try and make something else happen elsewhere on the map. Yopper will be able to take this tier 2, but we've got multiple members heading down to the tier 3. Tier 2, sorry, in the mid lane. We'll be able to grab that. So it's going to be a 1-for-1 trade on towers right there. Gold advantage though still going over to TCA. Here comes the curtain call. They're looking to make an engage happen and actually threading the needle. Did manage to land on Tristana. That's 2 ultimates and they haven't actually really achieved much with this engage. Dandy is happy to tank this damage. He's happy to continue to try and kite away and will be able to do so. So all in all, a lot burnt right there for the likes of TCA, and they don't really manage to get anything out of it.
I think Yoppa maybe overstayed his welcome, but he is going to start to back off now as the rest of the GLB lineup starts to move forward. Again, Croxon using a fairly inefficient ultimate onto, I believe that was Dandy having used Subjugate as well, so had the extra resistances, which is why you saw him take next to no damage. But you've also got to see that, to be honest, Croxon, in terms of items, is almost falling behind Nocturnal Plex at this point in time as well, because he is 1, 4, and 2. And obviously the gold, in terms of global gold, is pretty equal between the two teams. So he's also now going to be building towards controlling the team fight a little more. He looks like he's going towards a Rhyalized Crystal Scepter instead of going for flat damage output.
Well, speaking of flat damage output, the death cap has just been finished for Plex, and that is going to be a huge spike. For, especially when we already saw how much damage his Mantra Qs are doing at this stage. On top of a death cap, that is going to start to be obscene.
Yes, and you can see where his build path is going. He's obviously trying to just have the most impact with Mantra Qs, having the most impact with his Mantra Shields as well. And this is kind of that sort of classic utility-esque AP mid laner build. You often used to see something like this on Lulu's. You know, you go for a bit of cooldown reduction, then you just literally go for flat AP because that's the way you have the most impact.
Yep.
Looks like TCA are going to try and take their first Drake of the game here, Munchables.
Yep, Cloud Drake is going to go their way. Nobody anywhere near for GLB to contest onto this one. I don't think they'll be too concerned, though, at this stage. Obviously, Cloud Drake giving you essentially Moby boots. It is going to be a nice little bit of an advantage for them, but not the end of the world at this stage. And we'll see. Actually, the animation going on to both teams right there. It was, in fact, the Cloud Drake rather than the Ocean Drake. We'll be able to update the overlay for you guys. But, yeah, so a little bit of a nice pickup for TCA. They are starting to pull ahead in gold as well, but it definitely doesn't feel like either team is so far ahead that it's out of anyone's hands.
Absolutely not. My only worry now for GLB is how do you deal with this Gnar? I don't think you do. It looks like they're going to be starting to clear that Baron vision out because it looked like GLB were trying to threaten that as an objective. I don't think that would be in the interests of GLB. However, I think if they get pulled towards a Baron, for instance, they're going to be playing into the hands of TCA. You know, it's an enclosed space. Gnar has a huge impact. Team fights come out where you're going to be doing poorly. Need to go back to plan A, which is Siege. Now, that top lane looks like a quite juicy target to try and siege onto. It's the furthest away from Gnar. You're going to force a teleport if you need it. And you've got a minion wave that is starting to build up as well. So I think that the top lane siege potential would be good here for GLB, especially if they manage to make a pick onto somebody beforehand. But they seem to be content to just try and clear waves as best as possible here.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will just confirm, unfortunately, the overlay not actually quite working correctly. So that is a Cloud Drake, whether it looks like an Ocean Drake or not.
Goodbye, Zanny.
Just to let you guys know, Zanny in a bit of trouble here. Will survive, though. Croxon not deciding to use that ultimate just yet. We've seen him use that multiple times onto Zanny in this fight. Look at the amount of orbs available as well. That's the kill going the way to Deadly, and Shikari is all on his own at this stage. He's going to get stunned up, but he's very tanky already. He's got his AD carry over towards the side. But this is a very spread out team fight right now. It is going to be Tristana going down in the end. Deadly almost got dropped, but will get picked up in the end by Tristana. And here comes Plex. He's all on his own right now. He's completely slowed down and will get finished off. Jet grabs the kill credit. That is 4 kills going the way to TCA. And they're looking towards a Baron as well. They're
getting dragged into teamfight scenarios because A, people are getting caught, and B, that's not what they want to be doing. Like, they should be trying to rotate, make good vision happen, go the safe way to lanes, don't try and make any fancy plays. You've got a straight-up siege composition with Karma and Tristana. Your win objectives were to take turrets or get Tristana to late game. Well, Tristana's a little bit away from late game. Pressure is starting to build up in the split push, so you might not be able to play to that win condition very easily. You really want to be going as a unit and going straight towards structures and focusing onto those structures. Looks like we are back into game, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. So we'll see Baron getting taken here. Also for some very low health targets from TCA.
Yeah, absolutely. That is going to be going their way. Obviously, a lot of them getting very low for that one, but there was nobody around on GLB to really punish anything. Obviously, Shikari did have that teleport, but he didn't really know what was going on for that stage, so not worth risking anything.
No, I mean, Shen stealing it would be a miracle, to be honest. So,
mate, he's got Sunfire Cape, right? So that's so much burst damage coming out from him.
burst. Sunfire. It wouldn't be the first time I've seen a Sunfire Cape steal on Baron, to be honest. But then I played League of Legends for a long time, so I've seen pretty much everything.
And remember as well that there was once a time where Cinderhulk, the jungle version of Sunfire Cape, scaled with HP in terms of its damage. So
Yeah, there was a time where you could also stack 6 Sunfire Capes,
that
and
is true.
they would all do unique damage. So you could end up burning for, what was it, like 240 a second?
It was 40 per, so
Yeah.
240.
That's pretty OP. And plus you get all that armor as well.
Bring back Sunfire Stack.
Yeah, bring back Sunfire stacks.
And as well, just like 5 Warmogs
Make
and
our
boost
rift
Swifties on
make our
Garen.
rift great again.
Yeah, just unlimited HP. Anyway, enough about the good old days. Let's take a look at the gold differential right now, because TCA, they're starting to run away with things just a little bit. And look at Yopper, 5,000 gold. He has the lead right now. If you look at the gold between the two teams and you look at Yopper's gold lead, that is the difference. That is what is making the game. So Yopper literally just pulling this game out for his team. Flame Horizon once again. We seem to see that every week here in the Premiership. Yopper going to be the one grabbing that one, but he's actually stunned up underneath the tower. Will be able to jump out, but takes half of his HP for his trouble. So
he's got Merc Treads though, so that taunt isn't going to have a huge impact. You know, if he got taunted up to under turret without Merc Treads, maybe there would have been a potential to at least force him away from lane, but not going to happen because he escapes fairly freely. And look at Yopper now, just starting to really stack up that pressure onto Shen. That max health damage coming out from his W is a real issue right now for GLB, and you can see that they're splitting their time between the two lanes.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you take a look at the minimap as well, there's a massive minion wave up in the top lane. The mid lane in tower is going to go down though. And it might just be followed by an inhibitor. Look at the damage that Croxon is starting to push out. He's looking for Dandy as well, throwing those orbs forward. But he's not actually going to be able to finish off the target just yet, and the damage is still coming out from Plex. They are going to be able to finish this inhibitor, so there's no actual contestant.
That's my favorite thing about...
I'm amazed that he didn't actually use his ultimate there.
That's my favorite thing about the updated Syndra, by the way, the multiple ball throws.
Yeah.
It's the best thing.
Yeah, it certainly increases her effectiveness when you're in those kind of siege situations, because it's basically just like, this is a no-go zone for the next 2 seconds.
Now, I feel like GLB... Oh, wow, the spear actually hit there. I feel like GLB had the potential here to walk away with things, but they kept getting dragged into these team fight situations, which, like I said at the start of the game, they honestly just have a worse team fight. And especially since Yopper has done so well, who's probably the linchpin of the TCA teamfight composition. I think that you had to play a safer game as GLB. You needed to be structuring your fights around structures, literally structuring your fight around structures. You know, rotating, making safe transitions, not making those risky transitions like Zanny made through the enemy blue side jungle. You should be walking through lane, pushing waves as a unit, and then using Shen as a backup if you get caught in engage. You want to be using Karma Shield as a disengage tactic. But it didn't happen that way. They got dragged into the dirt by TCA, and then TCA like to play there. They like to, you know, fight in the mud, and it's exactly what's worked out well for them.
Absolutely. And Duskblade of Dragthar has been finished up here for Deadly, so his damage is going to start to get real scary. If he can get a couple of auto attacks off, and especially that 4th auto attack, that crit, that is going to do so much on top of the burst from the Duskblade. And we'll see whether there's anything GLB can do to actually fight against this composition right now, because so far they've just pretty much conceded that mid lane inhibitor. Are they just going to allow another one to fall? Do they need to just force an emergency fight right now?
They win the poke war, but at this point your poke isn't doing enough damage. You've got a Lichbane Nidalee. You're not going to win in a long-range fight with that. And the only other poke you've got is the Karma, who, yes, you've got the Rabadons at this point, but that is still Karma. You can only use your Mantra Q as an effective form of poke every so often, but here goes Yopper.
Yeah, he charges on and is going to be able to get the Gnar onto Zanny, who goes down immediately. Stand United will not save him. Dandy on this front line, he's tanky. Is he tanky enough, though? He's taking chunks of damage. Shikari jumps on in as well. They're trying to hold on to their health bars, but I don't think they're going to be able to. Yopper has to back away, but there goes the root. Flash forward from Deadly. Actually, nearly gets taken down by Nocturnal Plex, who's looking to try and finish things off. Yopper is incredibly low. Jet as well getting chunked on out. There's the Shadow Dash, and there's still a full HP Tristana. He could go for a cleanup if he can find the right kills, but everybody's escaping. Flash forward from Plex doesn't quite do enough damage managed to finish anybody off. They're still on the chase, though. They're not allowing this one to just go away for free, but I don't think there's anything they can do about it.
No, we are just gonna see the slow Benny Hill transition out from TCA as they run away from their opposition. But they got what they came for. They maybe would have wanted to end the game off the back of that, but they got the 2 inhibitors. They have only got 1 lane left to siege. They can still have Yopper in a side lane with teleport pressuring those Nexus turrets. In fact, he's going to teleport straight up to top lane. So we're going to have to see where the rest of GLB decide to make their appearances. I think this could just be a 5-man siege. With the fact that they're just so far ahead, and they've got Krogson now with a lot of control with the Void Staff and the Rylai's, they can probably just go for sieges against GLB, and I don't think GLB are going to be able to wave clear effectively enough, even fight under tower effectively enough. This is just TCA's game to throw, and I don't think they've got a very long arm range.
Well, one thing I will say for GLB, if they can get a couple of minutes just to themselves to be clearing these waves, they've got a Tristana for the super minions, and they've got a Karma that can deal with any massive stacks of minions that will be coming out. The AoE clear is going to be there. Oh, the Cocoon at max range. It's not actually going to be capitalized on. Gets away on full HP, but it is going to be the inhibitor going down regardless. And look at the amount of shields that Plex is throwing onto his AD carry. They might be able to sweep up if they can find a miracle, but Plex is about to go down. Manages to shield himself in the end, but it's 1-for-1 mid laner for mid laner so far. Tristana still alive, but so is Deadly. He's got that Duskblade, and he's just desperate to use that active on it. Here comes the Cocoon once again. Jet has been doing fantastic with those skill shots. The damage is there. This is going to be the inhibitor in the end. Zane actually going to go back in, though. Looks for Jet. The Shadow Dash will land onto 2 of them. This is the opportunity. They've got to go for it. It's now or never. Yopper might be going down next, and he will do so. The lifesteal is going to be there, but Deadly still pretty much full HP right now, and they cannot go for this. Ghostblade comes on through. Shikari has to Shadow Dash on out of that one, and they don't even need to go for the inhibitor. The minions are pushing on their own. Deadly will be able to finish things off with a 9,000 gold lead at the end of the day. TCA are going to be able to finish off this first game in the best of 3. It is 1-0 now over GLB.
I wouldn't say it looked dominating much in the first 15 minutes, but after that, Yopper got a massive advantage, and it looked almost dead set since then. Yopper has been the standout performer for TCA for me over the last few weeks, and he proved it once more. Very meta pick in the top lane, had huge impact with it. They played to their win conditions, which was, force 5v5s if they can, and then eventually when they get to a siege scenario, they're just too far ahead for anybody to deal with. And their pick was so good. I mean, honestly, I think some of their pick strategies, when they had the pick onto Tristana in the mid lane, when they chained CC with the Gnar and Elise, they made a pick onto Tristana at that last siege turret. Although they didn't capitalize on the Gnar ultimate, they still came out ahead and won the fight. Some could say because of the pressure they put onto Tristana straight away. So they made good use of their pick scenarios during team fights, and then it just came down to the fact that actually I think GLB kind of misplayed their rotations. They didn't take safe pathing into turrets. They didn't take advantage of what they were good at, which was sieging themselves. They had very quick turret takes, and they got off to a flying start, Munchables. That bot lane turret was the key to getting their strategy rolling, and they got it very quickly, but floundered after that.
And I think there was that turning point when they tried to go for that top tower twice